How's it going, everyone? This is Javita. This was supposed to be a quick leveling tips and tricks video, however it has swelled to a full leveling 101 type video. I will add some sort of index so you can jump around topics for those that are a little bit more familiar with the game. This is geared for new players, so bear with me. Getting down to business, these are some questions I frequently get asked, so I figured I should turn them into a video. At the time being, as of release 184, I see two main strategies for leveling. First strategy is kind of what I'm calling the Homesteader. This is basically you play the game more or less as normal. You gather all your stuff, you craft all your stuff, and you do it in such a way that it synergizes with itself. The other way to level that is arguably faster but a lot more limited in play is the level by hunting. This method, you start off hunting wild animals, you set up maybe a rudimentary base camp to cook some food for healing, and mostly rely on shops to provide your tools and other goods that you need, as well as selling off the stuff that you get from hunting. One of the major drawbacks to this method is that it's a little bit slow starting off, but later on it speeds up dramatically, ending up at near end game level of being arguably the fastest way to level, especially if you can get in the group events. Okay, so regardless of which method you prefer, I recommend checking out one of my previous videos. It's called the portal trick. I'll put a link in the description. But simply put, this is a trick using the already established portal networks that you basically just use them to visit all the planets in Boundless. The game has a built-in kind of achievement system called feats, and you get quite a bit of experience from completing the feats that involve traveling to all the planets. Makes sense. But by using this method, you can get a character very quickly from level 1 to level 8 in just about no time at all. The before mentioned video explains how to find these networks and kind of gives you a tour of at least this portal network, which is Jeff's transfer station, on how to get to all the planets. But by using the portal trick along with the basic tutorials, you can very quickly get a character up to level 10. Okay, so focusing on the self-sufficient homesteader for a while. If you're starting from scratch, of course, go through the tutorial. It does a good job of teaching you the game, get a little base camp kind of set up. As I was saying earlier, you can very easily get to level 10. The significance of this is that level 10 is the earliest you can get bulk and mass crafting, which you can hit H to go to character, skills, and then you can scroll down a bit, and here we go, equipment crafting. Bulk and mass crafting is found under equipment crafting, not to be confused with item crafting. Importance of bulk and mass crafting is that it will allow you to use the same amount of resources to craft more stuff. The catch is that you'll need to craft in either bulk or mass quantities. But just to give you an example, you can take 1 rock and turn it into 2 stone. Or you could take 18 rocks and turn it into 50 stones. So you can really save yourself a lot of resources in the long run by doing mass crafts. Naturally, this requires you to gather resources in larger quantities, and to do so as quickly as possible, I recommend focusing on dexterity first. You don't necessarily have to max it out completely, but dexterity will increase your swing speed, which will dramatically decrease the time needed to gather resources. Another skill to consider is a bit of agility. This will increase your movement speed, so cut down on travel time a little bit. And it's always good to have a little bit of vitality if you're interested in doing the meteorite events. This is the single most important stat you can invest in at least early game. So, armed with decent dexterity for swing speed and bulk and mass crafting, just basically go out and gather whatever it is you need. Wood, stone, leaves, you name it. Eventually you can use these materials to build yourself a house of some sort and crafting area. I would suggest, however, to have a particular prejudice for any kind of rock. The reason for this being is if you can get massive amounts of rock, you can use that in conjunction with mass crafting to gain a lot of experience for minimal effort beyond gathering the stone itself. If you already have a character that can supply your new character with stone, then this is particularly potent. Or if you have the money to spare, you can actually go to shops and buy stone for this purpose. But as you can see here, I have a lot of crafting tables, and the general system that I use is I dump all my rock into these trading plinths as storage, and then whenever I need to level something, I'll just get them up to the point that they can use bulk and mass crafting and just queue all of these tables up with rock. Which brings me to my next point. Given the current skill system, there's no way to possibly learn all of the skills, and the crafting recipes alone take up a lot of these skills. So I would actually recommend making 2 characters. You can make one that's kind of like a hunter miner, and then you can make another one that specializes in doing all the crafting stuff. So again, you can make a new character, do the portal trick, go through the tutorials, get to level 10, get bulk and mass crafting, use your miner to gather lots of stone, and then you can swap back and forth as needed. Also, your miner can use the bulk and mass crafting skills to power level himself, and then later on he can always unlearn the 2 skills for bulk and mass crafting when he no longer needs them. So as you can see, the Homesteader is pretty dependent on gathering resources to gain experience. I've heard of players using rubber bands on controllers to hold down one of the triggers to make this a little bit less tedious. However, I do have a tip that's even better than that. If you're using a controller and Boundless has to be run through Steam, you might as well use Steam to do this for you. So you can just open up your overlay when you have a controller plugged in, go to controller configuration, and basically you just go over to one of the trigger buttons, and the important bit is you want to turn trigger analog output to off. This just tells the game to use this as a regular analog thing, but we're going to change the functionality, so it needs to treat it more like a key on a keyboard. I prefer soft pull. You can use full pull if you want, but click over here, and what we're interested in is show activators. By default, if you want to use the controller, you can simply press this button right here to activate this. So as you can see, it has the little prompt down there, but anyway. And basically all we're going to do is we want to leave all of this alone. We just want to turn the toggle to on. So come out here. Now whenever I press the trigger, all I have to do is press it once and Steam holds it down for me. Now all I have to do is aim to mine, and you would be amazed at how much longer you will be willing to mine or gather wood or gather anything when all you have to do is move and aim. It's like, I don't know. It's like drinking 5 energy drinks. But you can also, of course, do this with any button. I use the back button or the left arrow button to do this as well, so I can maintain the normal functionality of the triggers, but it's down to personal preference of where you would want to put something like that. Steam now supports both PS4, Xbox 360, if I'm not mistaken, even like Logitech controllers or controllers that we'd use only with the PC. So you're not limited to just the Steam controller to use this. Also, there's lots of other ways to achieve this with, say, like a mouse and keyboard. Many gaming keyboards and mice will have a program that allow you to do some kind of macros. Basically, you're just looking for some way to tell the mouse or keyboard to just click down and then not actually click back up. But anyway, coming back to the rubber band trick that's been suggested by other players, you could certainly just take a piece of scotch tape or whatever and probably just tape down your mouse button if you don't want to mess with any software solutions and you don't want to use a controller. Moving along to my next tip, now that it's a little bit easier to mine, the mining location can have a big impact on the quality of your mining adventures. So as you can see, I'm right outside Pixelgate, behind Cook's Corner, and basically this is the beginning of the desert. The biomes on the starter planets are set up kind of north to south. They'll be essentially forest and wetlands sandwiched between desert and icy mountains. So going north to south will travel you through the different biomes. If you go east to west, you'll generally stay in the same type of biome. But as you can see here, if you're after stone, this is a pretty great place to do it. There's lots of stone right here on the surface, but more importantly, the desert oftentimes has natural openings to cave systems that you can essentially use these to go shopping. You can find just about everything you need. See right here, there's some copper. Explore around and you can find iron, fossils, you can find tech fragments and components as well. Generally speaking, the deeper you go, you'll find the rare minerals such as silver, gold, titanium, as well as the better coals and fossils. However, if you stay up higher, basically kind of where I'm at right here, you'll find more tech fragments and components. But as you can see, you can get lots of stone, coal, and other resources. If you're not particularly interested in sedimentary rock, if you just go a little bit deeper, it will eventually turn into primarily metamorphic rock with patches of igneous rock. As you can see right here, here's a tech component. These are required for making spark cores and can be a little bit difficult to find. They are a lot easier than they used to be, so food for thought. It's good to note that just about any biome will have caves underneath it. However, what sets the desert apart is that it oftentimes has natural openings and the desert caves are relatively flat, making them very easy, especially for new players, to navigate and find resources. The natural caves in the snowy mountains can be quite extreme and basically require a grapple just to get around in. Furthermore, a side note on resources is that in Boundless, they are not uniformly distributed. They actually kind of tend to clump together, so you might go long stretches without seeing any resources and then all of a sudden come across large clusters of it. This isn't as true for the walls of caves, but if you're digging through solid rock or into solid mountains, this is often the case. So you can actually, on the mountains, walk around the edges until you see some resources, start to dig into them, and you'll usually find a pretty good pocket of different things. Another side note on cave diving and quality of torches: as you might imagine, not all torches are created equal. The basic torches have a fairly small range on them. Basic or regular torches are slightly better, but obviously gem torches are king. It might behoove you to visit a shop and invest in at least one gem torch to dramatically improve your cave diving experience. As you can see, the Homesteader is a well-rounded experience. When you get tired of gathering, you can build. When you get tired of building, you can go back to gathering and crafting, and all of those actions award experience. And the bulk and mass crafting ensures that you squeeze every little bit of experience out of those actions as you can. However, these suggested methods does require you to split your experience among several characters, so if you want to hyper-focus on one character or you're not interested in that type of gameplay, there is the hunting method. The hunting method is heavily dependent on player-ran shops for both selling your goods from hunting and buying the tools that you need to be able to hunt effectively, such as healing items and bows. Hunting also goes significantly faster in groups, so if you have friends to play with and hunt with, that is amazing. Also, there is the daily and weekly hunts, which you can find information here about. This is the Moebius Plaza. I did a video on this a little ways back, so you can check out that video. In the first few minutes of it, shows you how to get to this plaza from every starting planet in the game. The hub has seen a lot of renditions since that video, so it looks drastically different, but the instructions on how to get here are still valid. So starting off, it'll be beneficial for the hunter to be as close to civilization as possible, so getting close to a capital or portals that lead to a well-connected hub is fairly key. You will want to set up a very basic campsite to be able to cook the meat you get from hunting so you can heal yourself. The single most important stat starting off for hunters would be vitality, as you start off with a fairly small health pool, and having more vitality means you'll be able to survive the meteor events on the starter worlds, as well as not worry so much about keeping your health up. Following vitality, agility is probably your next priority, as this will allow you to move faster, moving between animals and meteorite events faster. This also helps dramatically in avoiding projectiles from spitters and Cuttetrunks. Once you have a decent amount of vitality and agility, you can move on to bow mastery. Hunters level up fairly quickly early game, but there's a bit of a lull that they run into when they're trying to transition from iron slingbows into gem slingbows, as it takes a bit of time to get 4 points into slingbow mastery. 4 points is all you need in bow mastery to be able to use gem tools. Any further points offer 0 benefits. Optionally, you can also take the rapid fire and charge attacks. I generally don't recommend the rapid fire slingbows simply because they wear out faster due to their rapid fire nature. The charge attack is also optional. It does add a little extra damage if you charge up the slingbow, but it's not overly dramatic. If you can attend regular group events, then something that's even more important than getting slingbow mastery is going down to survival and getting the death penalty reduction. If you can max this out, then each time you die, you lose 0 durability on your tools. Without this, each time you die, all of your tools, not only in your hands, but your inventory as well, will take 25% damage. So essentially 4 deaths will wipe out all of your tools. And in the group events, they are fairly dangerous and expect to die often until you learn how to survive. As I said, shops are very important to hunters. Normally, I would tell you to simply go to Omni's shop, as he buys and sells everything. However, he is currently on break and his shop is no longer buying items. He still has things for sale, so it might be worth checking out. However, hunters really need to be able to sell their goods from hunting, so Doomsday shop is a good alternative, as well as Eld's and Letty's shop. This would probably be my recommendation, as their prices are very reasonable and they have an assortment of most everything. Also, for the Homesteader, they have an assortment of gem torches, of which the prices are some of the best I have seen at 82 coins a piece. Considering every day you log into Boundless you get 100 coins, that should be very easy for anybody to afford several torches if need be. Also, for the hunter, a good supply of slingbows is essential. Iron slingbows are pretty much your best option until you can use gem slingbows, as they require 0 mastery to use and do excellent damage. Silver slingbows do fire faster, however they actually do less damage and they have less durability, so it's hard to justify the drastically increased price over iron. Gold Slingbows are also a fairly poor choice. They have an extremely low damage output as it fires 3 projectiles in a horizontal spread, 2 of which are almost guaranteed to miss. So in total it would do the same amount of damage as iron, but only if you can get all 3 shots to hit the creature, which requires you to use it almost like a melee weapon. If you are desperate for an upgrade before gem bows, titanium is an okay option. It does an extra 200 damage and it has better durability, but considering you can spend 38 coins on an iron slingbow versus 1,320 coins for a titanium slingbow, I'm not sure that upgrade is really worth it or feasible for early hunters. Not to mention it does require 3 points in bow mastery to be able to use effectively. Sadly, the hunter's income is heavily dependent on rough Oort stone and rough gems. One of the best places to sell these things that I have found so far is Doomsday's shop, and right here he has an assortment of things he wants to buy, namely the rough Oort stone and gems. Another good shopping area is in Aquatopia. You can go through this portal right here, and off to the right is a shopping center. There are numerous player-made shop stands here in the center, but there's also a fairly decent shop over here that buys and sells a lot of things. So this is another good place to check out when you're trying to unload resources and stock up on tools. Okay, so once you have 5 or 6 points into vitality and agility and a decent supply of iron slingbows, you can head over to one of the ring worlds. I would recommend Munting 7 or Nashral, as alternate creatures can poison you, which is very annoying, and the creatures on Volto are fairly low level. Additionally, it can be very helpful to have 1 or more points into the jump height bonus, as this can help with navigation and avoiding projectiles. If you check out the portal trick video, you'll know how to get to the other planets. Something that I would heavily recommend is saving the location of every transfer station in Jeff's portal hub. So you can go over to places, click on the current location, and then save this location. So as you can see here, I have each of Jeff's locations saved. And a nice trick for getting home quickly is whatever planet you happen to be on, warp to that location on Jeff's hub, use his hub to get back to your home planet, and go from there. This will save you coin in the long run, since the further away you are, the more expensive the warp will be. Ring worlds have higher level creatures. These can be much more dangerous, so I recommend being very cautious at first until you learn how they behave. However, the experience reward is much higher for these creatures. Prior to getting the death penalty reduction, it'd be a good idea to set up a base camp near your hunting grounds so you can store away your non-essential tools and weapons to protect them from potential deaths. Also, you can set up a furnace to cook a little meat to prolong your hunting trip. Another tactic that works fairly well is to get up on a high structure or build a little tower, which will then allow you to shoot Wildstock from a safe location. This is not exactly the most entertaining play, but can be a safe, effective way to level. Also, Wildstock have a chance to drop fossils, which are moderately valuable. If you are playing solo and can only use iron slingbows, I would heavily recommend avoiding elite creatures. They are possible to kill, but they are a substantial time investment to kill and can be quite costly on healing items. Mighty Cuttetrunks are the most valuable things you can kill at this point with iron slingbows, and they have a chance to drop rough gems. So seek them out whenever you can. Once you feel comfortable dealing with the various creatures on ring worlds, and if you happen on an active meteor, as long as it's a level 1, you should be able to solo it. Just be sure to have plenty of food on hand, as there's usually one elite at the end. Remember, this is a building game, so build any structures that might aid your endeavors. When approaching the meteor, do so cautiously until you see the portals open up. There we go. And then engage the animals one at a time when possible. Once you get 4 points into Slingbow Mastery and you can afford a gem Slingbow, this will drastically increase your ability to gain levels. Again, carry as few of these on your person as you possibly can if you do not have the 0% death penalty yet. When selecting your first gem Slingbow, I would probably recommend the Sapphire Heavy Charger Slingbow or the Ruby Precise Charger Slingbow. As you probably already heard, the names are fairly descriptive. Heavy Slingbows usually do more damage, however the projectile generally has an arc to it. Precise are dead accurate, they fly completely straight. They're great as snipers. There's also cluster chargers, cluster meaning it fires more than one projectile. Particularly the diamond cluster Slingbow has an insane damage output, however it's practically a melee weapon and I would not recommend it for beginning players. However, the Sapphire Heavy Charger, while it does have an arc, it's very similar to the Iron Slingbow and has the single highest damage shot of all the Slingbows. This gives it a fairly good value to a new hunter. The Ruby Slingbow is a wonderful choice for new players joining group hunts, as its long range and ease of use allows them to stay out of harm's way. That being said, almost all of the Slingbows will kill things significantly better than an Iron Slingbow. However, there is one that's a bit of a black sheep. It is the Emerald Slingbow. This bow has a spread on it that's fairly nice, however it merely poisons creatures. So for solo use, this bow is nearly useless. In group events, however, its usefulness is arguable. Okay, so that should cover the hunter quite nicely. One thing I probably haven't stressed enough is how much better this works in groups. So I would highly suggest looking into the daily hunt schedule here at the Moebius Plaza. Also, they have set up a guild called the Portal Seekers by Varus and Cyprus. They have a headquarters on Muntean 7 along with a portal hub in the works right here. And pretty cool group of people. There's talks of holding special events to help people level up. But a few skills I haven't really talked about. If you go over here to skills and endurance, there's all sorts of things, namely health regeneration. That will probably help you out the most early on. But then later, there's actually defense skills that will help you reduce damage. The kinetic defense, that's for all physical attacks like spitter projectiles and Wildstock. There's also impulse defense and resistance that will do energy attacks from, say, Cuttetrunks. The resistances, that gives you a chance to resist all damage. So if you fill it out, you have a 50% chance to take all that damage and reduce it to 0. Particularly effective for the elite Wildstock that can hit for thousands of damage at a time. The defense, on the other hand, that is a flat damage reduction from each hit. So it says 5 for right here, so taking this first rank will reduce your damage from kinetic damage by 5, all the way up to 300. So that's something to consider for later on. Also, there's item durability bonus. If you max this out, this will essentially make your tools last twice as long. However, if you don't have the death penalty reduction, it's not really worth worrying about this, as 2 deaths will completely make this worthless if you do not have the death penalty reduction yet. So as you can probably imagine, you can take all of these methods and blend them together. There's even an argument for leveling a hunter and using a hunter to fund all of your other characters by selling your goods and then, say, buy a whole bunch of stone to power level your other characters, either your crafter or whatever else you might want to do. So this is certainly not the only way to do it. These are just the methods that I have found that works best for me. Anyway, this was Javita. Thanks for watching. If you liked this video, be sure to hit that like button, subscribe if you want to see more like this, and if there's anything you didn't like, please let me know down below. Until next time, peace.